Well, the countdown is finally over. College football right around the corner as we are counting down to kickoff on Saturday. We're going to talk all things Auburn as they begin the season on the Plains at home against UMass. The Minutemen, they've already had one game in the books. We'll talk about that as well. Cole Kublik, I'm Simone Eli. We're excited to kick things off. Let's go head-to-head. All right, guys, welcome in. Cannot wait to get the season started. Cole, I'm excited that we get to kind of rekindle our friendship here on Head-to-Head. Obviously, ever since I left Birmingham, don't see it as often, so I'm excited to be chatting ball with you. How's life right now? Lots of kids, lots of, it's game time, so I'm sure that it's busy for you.
No, the fall is here, so we are almost in full swing as it pertains to traveling for games. 3 kids. And that keeps you pretty busy as well, but it's fun. I'm excited that it's here, and I think Auburn fans have a lot to be excited about with all the changes in Hugh Freeze taking over as head coach.
No doubt about it. We're going to jump right in. Of course, you can hear Cole on ESPN, SEC Network as well. Radio host for WJOX with Greg McElroy. You stay busy. I feel like it's hard to even get you nailed down to do this show. So I'm excited to talk. Let's talk about Hugh Freeze. This is a guy who people really didn't know what to expect when he was hired at Auburn. And I think he's certainly done some impressive things when you think about recruiting and things of that nature. What has been your overall take on his time so far on the Plains?
Simone, I think if you looked at the hurdles that Hugh Freeze had to cross early on in his tenure, he coached the game yet, but they were still there. He has crossed most of those with flying colors. He had to upgrade the talent in the roster first and foremost. He's done that. They go to the portal, they get their starting quarterback. They get probably 2 starting receivers. You get a starting tight end, starting center, starting tackle, maybe another starting tackle. A couple of defensive linemen that are going to start or at least be big role players for you inside and off the edge, a starting linebacker. So you're looking at almost half of the starters, or at least guys that are going to heavily be in the rotation of the first 22 that they got from the transfer portal. The high school recruiting has already grown under Hugh Freeze and his staff. He put a great staff together, and I think John Cohen's helped him a lot. I think the synergy right now, Simone, inside that Auburn athletic department, it may be as strong as I've ever seen in my entire lifetime, just with the collective, the fans, obviously the administration, the boosters, the people who are going to be putting up the money to be able to help Auburn do different things. It all seems to be pulling in the same direction. And as we both know, covering sports in the state for a long time, that has not been the case a lot of the time over the last 20, 30 years.
No doubt about that, Cole. And when you think about past Auburn teams, sometimes there's been the talent there, but it seems like the synergy, the energy, all of the things happening between the coaching staff and the administration hasn't been there, which unfortunately has led to disappointing seasons on the field, it feels like.
And I think Hugh Freeze has a lot of, I guess we'll call it buy-in taking place right now with this team. The leadership has really sort of come forward. I think there's an understanding that a lot of these guys want to get this right this year. They understand that a lot of people believe that it's a bit of a rebuilding year and don't have very high expectations, but from my understanding is there's a little bit of buzz as far as the energy and the feel is concerned with this particular Auburn football team heading into this season.
We will certainly see on Saturday a 2:30 kickoff between UMass and Auburn. Quickly want to thank our sponsor, Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Cole, when you're a player and you go through fall camp, especially in the state of Alabama, when it has been hot as heck every single day, practice is rough. You're going out there multiple times a day. You're trying to keep your body right. How ready are you just to get to game day and start game prep and not have to just go through the grind of preseason practice?
You're always ready for that because you're just tired of going against the same defense, the same defensive personnel, or the same offense, same offensive personnel. You know the checks by now. You know what the certain calls are. So subconsciously you're going to cheat certain things when you're going against your guys. You know what pass rush move is going to win, or you know which guys aren't going to be able to play certain things a certain way. But as far as being ready for it, I don't know if you're ever truly ready for the first game, because that game conditioning is just different. No matter how many gassers you're running, no matter how many 300-yard shuttles you're running, how many fifths you're running, it always hits you different when that first ball is snapped and you're out there going full speed against an opponent that's trying to wreck you on an every down basis. So you're never truly ready for that. That's why I always think it takes a couple of games to get everybody into the swing of things. And now there's no more 2-a-days. You have to have days off in between contact. The contact's been narrowed down. I think physically, as far as being used to being acclimated to tackling and blocking and the contact that takes place, I think college football players right now are further away from that as far as readiness when the season begins than they ever have been before, just because the only way to truly get acclimated to it is actually go out and do it. And we've taken away so many of those padded practices that it's difficult for guys to be where they need to be once the season begins.
You mentioned when we were talking about Freeze, how many people that he has brought in that are going to be potential starters, guys that we'll see roll out there right away. And one of them is Peyton Thorne. And it's been impressive to see what he has been able to do in a short time, coming in from Michigan State and making an immediate impact, not only on the field, but in the locker room. How difficult is it in your mind as a guy who's been in locker rooms before for a guy like Peyton Thorne to come in at the time of year that he did, talking about the position that he is in? We're not just, just a random receiver. We're talking about the quarterback, the leader in the locker room. How hard is that for him to come in and make that sort of impact and then win that job?
It's tough, but I think he had the right experience to be able to do it. And one of the reasons he was brought in was because the leadership in that room was not where it needed to be. There wasn't a true quarterback in that room as far as the guy who had operated an offense, led the offense, and been that guy walking around the building. I know Robbie Ashford finished the season as the starter last year, but that was a new offense that was designed for his specific skill set. And he didn't have a lot of games as the starting quarterback at Auburn. And I think when you're talking about operating an offense, Peyton Thorne has been, he's voted team captain 2 times at Michigan State. He's run the offense. He's gone out there and made the calls at the line of scrimmage, made the checks. He understands how to get into certain protections. He knows how to make those checks at the line of scrimmage and how to operate and manage an offense. That's why Coach Freeze wanted to bring him in.
This is a guy that's put up, 6,000 some passing yards in the last 2 seasons, 50 some total touchdowns. But as you know, as everyone knows, there's more than just a quarterback for offensive to have success. The guys up front, that's been a really huge point of emphasis, it seems like, for Auburn for the last decade, since I've covered this team. It's like every single year, what is offensive line going to look like? And they've taken so much criticism as a guy who specializes in this specific topic. Where do you feel like the Tigers are right now up front?
Vastly improved from a talent perspective. Now, Simone, we won't know what they are as a group until, like I said, they get out there and do it, and we see them operate in a game situation. But what Jake Thornton, Kendall Simmons, and Hugh Freeze have been able to do through the portal has been immaculate. Dylan Wade, tackle from Tulsa, is a big-time player. I think he is an SEC-ready tackle right this second. You go to ECU and you get Avery Jones, a guy who has, I think, 28, 32 starts at center. Got great experience, knows the position, can handle everything up front. You go get a Gunnar Britton from Western Kentucky who started over 30 games in his career. I think he could help at guard or he could help at tackle. Xavier Miller, a young man coming on in camp, junior college transfer, #1 junior college tackle in the country. He apparently is getting closer to be able to being ready and being able to help this football team. There may be 3, sometimes 4 transfer players in the starting lineup for this Auburn offensive line at any point in the season. And it just shows you really how far it needed to come and then how great of a job Hugh Freeze and his staff did in addressing it. It's where my eyes will be first with this football team because I think you got a good set of running backs. You have an offensive scheme that will really help that group.
What would you say is your biggest question mark for your alma mater at this point? What are you still just not totally sure about entering this week 1 matchup?
I think it's continuity. I think it's chemistry, and that probably falls a little bit with leadership, understanding, wherewithal, know-how. If you could ball all that up and have a term for it, that's what it would be. Just because you have so many different guys, as we discussed, that have not put this uniform on in a game, much less put this uniform on next to the guy that they're going to be playing with, either in the huddle or next to when they line up to go try to tackle an opponent or go try to block an opponent or catch a football or throw a football. They just have not been together a lot. And a lot of football is that nonverbal communication. Knowing when to break a route off a little bit early. Knowing when a pressure's coming, but you may not have the right protection call, but you can still pop out, find a way to pick it up and save your quarterback from taking a hit.
If anyone follows you on Twitter, they know very well that you're a big game film guy. It feels like you even though you're way past your prime of playing days, you still like to watch a lot of
way
games.
Past. Wow.
I'm just poking. You can still go play. But, I mean, you are a big game film guy. You always tweet out videos. You're always breaking things down. Auburn has the rare advantage of going into a week 1 matchup and having recent game film, as UMass opened the season last week with a road win over New Mexico State. A lot of people had UMass as like the dead last Division I college football team in the country. They proved that to be wrong because they beat at least one team. What do you see from this program as the season rolls on for Auburn in week 1?
I think you give Don Brown a ton of credit, and most Auburn fans won't really understand the circumstances, but for him to go in there and get a win to start the season, to be 1-0, to be undefeated is absolutely huge. Simone, this is a football program that won 3 games the last 4 football seasons prior to that opening matchup in week 0. They've done a great job in the transfer portal. A couple good receivers, Tyson Pumachon, who was at Clemson, then at Georgia Tech, is going to be the quarterback. He's got all the ability in the world. It's just finding a way to put it together as an actual college football quarterback. But they have some players now that can make some plays, that can disrupt, that can do some things on their own and maybe not be outmatched at every spot like they have been the last couple of seasons. Over the last 8 years, this has probably been the worst program in college football. So to get off to that start, especially with a closer game in the fourth quarter where you got a group that finds a way to win and go and closes it out, I think it's huge.
This is my first time on head-to-head, and this is my first time making a prediction for Auburn football. So you may have to coach me through this a little bit, but I'm going to let you go first. When you look at everything, when you have the question marks with Auburn and you see the game film on UMass, when the game hits 0-0, what do you think is going to be up on the scoreboard?
I'll take Auburn to win this game 56-7. I do think that the pressure that UMass most likely is going to try to bring will backfire at times. Don't be surprised if they get a sack or two. Don't be surprised if there's a couple tackles for loss. Just there's going to be moments that guys aren't on the same page. But because of how they're going to spread this defense out, if you do decide to bring pressure and you do decide to win the numbers game with getting to the quarterback, I think Peyton Thorne has the wherewithal, the understanding to be able to get to the right thing, get the ball out quickly. It's one thing I like about him is he's not afraid of the check down. He's not afraid to get the ball out. And he doesn't necessarily play hero ball a lot of the time. I think with Tyson Pumachon at quarterback, he gets you a big play or two. They find their way into the end zone once or maybe even twice. I see just 7. I see 1 touchdown, but he's the kind of playmaker that can make that happen, especially with guys playing sort of that 3-down look that's going to require a lot of communication at the second and third level. But I think it's a dominating performance at home because I think Auburn's a more talented team, and it sounds like they're a hungry team that has a lot to go prove. And even though it's going to be new, a lot of the guys are on the same page as far as how they want things to go. So I'm excited to watch it. It's a 40-point spread for a reason.
Yeah.
And Auburn should go handle business.
Yeah. I have 42-10, and I only 10 because, like you said, you just never know. First game, breakdown in communication. I think that a lot of folks know that Auburn's secondary is going to be one of the strengths of this team. But you never know. I mean, guys can go make plays in space and get, big gain and end up kicking a field goal. So I have 42-10. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be close, similar to what you said, but a lot of great points. Cole, we will see. We will see what things look like when the Hugh Freeze era officially kicks off at Auburn. I think that he's already surprised a lot of folks with a lot of things this offseason. So I'll be interested to see how things look when they actually take the field.
It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of new, but a lot to be excited about at the same time.
Could not agree more. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Head to Head. Want to thank our sponsor, Alabama Cattlemen's Association, and we will see you for week 2.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.